Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today in this video we're going to talk about Dataverse long-term data retention policies. Now, what is this? Let's take this way. Your business apps are running smoothly, data is coming in, but then suddenly you realize you're buried under this huge pile of data, trying to manage it all well. So that's the classic problem. Business generates so much of data now, and while you need the current stuff and also the historical data, it's valuable, sure, but how do you keep it without just clogging everything up? That's where Microsoft introduced this Dataverse long-term retention policies. So it's a strategy for dealing with historical data effectively. Today, in our video, we will deep dive really to unpack how this feature works. Okay, so we'll understand its benefits, how do we configure it, how do we see the retained data. Yes, but to put it in simple terms, so this focuses on securely retain unlimited data, cost efficient long-term storage, and move inactive data. Business application data lifecycle. When you have three types of data, first one is active data, right? So this is your live data, the stuff being used by apps flowing through workflows day to day, your operations code basically, which is fast and available. Yes. Next is inactive data. While inactive data is essentially a frozen one, it becomes immutable read only. It gets shifted into specific long-term retention storage area within Dataverse, which is mainly used for compliance, audit, and legacy discovery purposes. Next is deleted data. The data which is not needed anymore, then you can make it as permanently deleted. The data lifecycle is completed here. So now we understood active data, inactive data, deleted data, the three types of data. Now, how it works. First, you have to set up the policies. To set up a data retention policy in Dataverse, you need to follow a series of steps primarily performed from within Power Apps Maker portal. And then you have to go to Dataverse, select the table and then enable the retention policy property, create a view and set up this policy via Maker Experience admin persona and run the policy. Next, data storage. The retained data is never moved out of Dataverse. It stays within the Dataverse ecosystem, just in a different, less expensive storage tier. This avoids the need for customers to build custom solutions or manage external storage infrastructure. Security. Security is a fundamental aspect of Dataverse long-term data retention. A primary benefit is to securely retain historical application data long-term. The same Dataverse security model that applies to active data also flows to the cold storage where the retained data is stored. Security roles applicable for your Dataverse environment will also be applicable to the retained data in cold storage. Read-only access. Once the data transition to an inactive stage and is stored in the long-term retention store, it becomes immutable and read-only. Access to this retained data is for limited inquiry purposes and specifically for viewing only, typically for compliance, audit, and legal discovery needs. Dataverse provides read-only access to this retained data through specific methods. You can always go ahead and find advanced find within Dataverse application. Power Automate cloud flows. You can also use a dedicated API or you can connect to Microsoft Fabric. Types of data supported for long-term retention. Dataverse long-term retention supports retaining inactive business applications data. Dataverse supports standard tables as well as custom tables. With standard tables, there is a few exceptions of system tables. For example, the principal object access table is a system table that is not exported for retention. Attachments and images associated with standard or custom tables can be retained in long-term storage. When long-term retention is enabled on a parent root table, it automatically enables retention for all associated child tables and with their attachments and images. It's important to note that audit tables and elastic tables are currently not supported for long-term retention. Implementation requirements and prerequisites. So this is as of now generally available across all regions. Then you should have managed environments. The environment that you're going to create must be a managed environment, and you also need to have Dataverse Microsoft Power Platform premium licenses. Users must be system administrator or system customizer or Power Platform administrator to configure this feature. Tenants must have eligibility to create managed environments. Next, plan your retention strategy. You need to identify what are all the tables that has historical data and you don't want it as a live data anymore. And then you can start defining your retention strategy. And then you can apply these retention policies on all those tables that you want. Once the retention is applied, you can actually monitor the policies from your storage reports. Okay, so in order to proceed into our demo, I have already configured a managed environment in my tenant. I've created employee tables in the Dataverse and I want to retain inactive employee data whose leave date field is older than 2 years. That means my table is having historical data and I want to move this historical data to a cold storage by setting up this custom policies. Let's see how we can do it by navigating into the live. Let's start. Select the table that you want to configure. Go to the advanced properties and then you have an option called enable long-term retention. So check this and click on save. Once it is done, create a view. Here we need a view to set up a condition to view the data for the retention. Now I am selecting a leave date older than 2 years as my condition. And I am clicking on OK. Once the view is reflected, you can click on Save and Publish. Now go to Markup Portal and then if you scroll down under Data Management, you can find Retention Policies. So you can go ahead and create a new retention policy here. In case you want to create, it is under Unmanaged Environment. Soon after its creation, it will show as Deactivate. Now let's create. Select a table. In my case, it's employee. And then I'm going to name it here. I will type as retention, leave data retention policy. I'll select my view that I have created. I will set up the frequency and then I will click on save. Once this is done, you can see the policy will run in the future time. My policy is ran now. I can click on it. I will see the run ID. When you click on it, you are going to see the policy status is in progress retention. total number of records is not yet retained. Now once it is completed, you can see the number of records that are retained here. How to view your retained data? Let's try to find it out first using advanced find option. Now for that, you have to create a model driven app, and from the model driven app only you can see advanced find option. Now navigate to the view that you have selected here. Select the leave data retention policy view. Go to the edit filters. Here you can see change to retain data option. Select this and click on change to retain data and click on apply. So now you can see all the retained data that is retained by the retention policy. So this way you can see the retained data using advanced find. Now let's go to Power Automate Flow and see. Now I already created Power Automate Flow. I have selected the employee table and I have selected the fetch query. Here the data source is retained. I've given table name and attributes here. And then also I have created perform a background operation action also. From here also you can get the retained data. This is also another action. Now you have selected this, run the flow and see how it looks like. Yeah, done. Now I can go back and see the list row actions, expand. So status is 200. I could see the data in the compose. The result I could see in the compose here. Now you can also see by expanding perform a background operation action. Here the background operation status code is 30. So this way you can actually see the retained data. So that's it. In this video, we have covered what is long-term data retention policies, what are the benefits, how do we configure it, how do we test it, how do we see the retained data. So these are the things that we have covered. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please do subscribe and like my video. Thank you. Bye.